This is part two about my rave about the presentation development capabilities within Kumu, which I thought were extremely cumbersome and time consuming and annoying for quite a lengthy period of time until I realized that the problem was not Kumu, it was me. So I'm going to use this model as an example, and I'm going to go create a new presentation, and I'm just going to call it demo, demo. So typically, when I develop a presentation, I would go ahead and say, all right, I want to start with this, and hold down the shift key and select this, and then go over here and say focus, direct, focus selected, and then I would go ahead and say that I want to take the next slide, and I want to clear the focus, and then I want to display this, and go back and say selected, and so on and so on. And it's actually quite time consuming. And I typically now develop my presentations with the intention of doing a video voiceover so that I don't show this on the side anyway. But I'm now in a mode, once I finally realize that there's a whole bunch of shortcut keys that make things really awesome and quick. So let me get rid of this and get rid of this. And let me start over again and say that, okay, if I hit the back quote key, which is the tilde key, get rid of all this, close this, and then go ahead and expand this to the size that I want it to be. And I never click on this zoom to fit, because for me, it just screws things up. I always use these to go ahead and set the size of the model to what I want. And then if I go ahead and say, all right, I want to start with, I have a water shortage, so then I can hit the 0 key, which says selected, and simply click here. So now I have water shortage, and I can tell it that I really want to include the legend, but I'm not going to do that on most of these. So I then go ahead and select the next slide and hit the back quote key, which brings everything back, but this is still selected. But if I go ahead and say, all right, I really want this, and hold down the shift key and select this, and then hit the 0 key, I now have this, and I can say that the next slide, hit the back quote key, and then click on this and hit 0. So I've got the next slide, and one more, hit the back quote key and say I want this to be displayed, and hit 0. And the next slide, hit back quote and select this and hit 0, and hit the next slide, back quote, and everything is displayed. So I've now created this entire presentation in, 20 seconds? Probably less if I wasn't talking about it at the same time that I did it. So that if you learn to use the shortcut keys, which are actually, let me go ahead and save changes and exit from here. Publish this presentation. Not that I'm actually going to use it for anything. Open in a new tab. But if I go back to here, if you go to help, the shortcut keys are actually right here, 0 to 9 focus, and back quote is clear focus, and contract focus, and expand focus. So you could actually, if you wanted to, or if depending upon how it is that you want your model to be displayed when you do the presentation, if I go to presentations, and if I tell it that I want to edit this again, from here, if I created a new slide and said plus, all right, in other words, it expands it from selected to selected +1, and if I hit another new slide and say plus, it goes ahead and selects one more, so that you could simply have Kumu build out the model for you simply by going from selected to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. And you could do it in terms of selecting this, hitting 0, and then hitting 1, 2. There isn't enough for 3, but if you had a larger set of connections, you could expand your model simply by using the shortcut keys 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to however many degrees you wanted to present the model. But in terms of the first one that I developed, if you then get to here and look at it, oh, it's still working. All right. Water shortage, the reason for the water shortage, the drilling wells to satisfy the water shortage, the fact that it depletes the reserves, results in a growing demand, and a set of relationships that demonstrates how we end up typically being our own worst enemy. So the reason that I am so fascinated with the presentation development capabilities is I finally figured out how to use them in terms of the things that I create, so that where I used to just be terribly, terribly annoyed every time I needed to create a presentation, now I know that it typically takes less than a minute to take a project in a relationship model and turn it into a presentation that unfolds a story, so that the user sees the model develop over time. So hope you found this interesting, and I'll probably see you in another video for too long. Bye.